Every weekend, there's a young guy in a suburban neighborhood who wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning, not to go to work or hit the gym, but to spend hours in his garage with a car that already runs perfectly fine. He wakes up to spend hours in his cold, dimly lit garage with a car that already runs perfectly fine. To the outside world, his actions make absolutely no logical sense. He's installing performance parts that cost more than some people's monthly rent. His friends think he's completely obsessed, and his family thinks he's throwing his future away on chunks of metal. But to him, every single modification is necessary. Every upgrade is essential for his peace of mind. This isn't just a hobby, it is a ritual of reconstruction. To the wolf, this isn't just about cars or racing. This is about something much deeper in the human psyche. The relationship between a person and their modified machine operates on hidden psychological levels. When someone decides to lower their suspension, change their exhaust, or completely reprogram their engine, they're not just altering metal and machinery. They are performing surgery on their own identity. They're engaging in a profound form of self-expression that reveals fundamental aspects of human nature. It's not just owned, it is experienced. It is a mobile fortress. It's a space where people spend hours every single day, sometimes more time than they spend in their own bedrooms. So, when someone modifies their car, they're essentially redesigning a space they occupy. It's much like decorating a home or choosing what clothes to wear, but with one major difference. This space moves through the physical world. It actively broadcasts the driver's identity, status, and mood to everyone who sees it on the street. It is a psychological armor against the outside world. Research in consumer psychology shows that people form intense emotional attachments to objects that reflect their ideal self. The car becomes a physical manifestation of who they want to be, not necessarily who they currently are. Growing up, his family moved constantly because of his father's unstable job. They lived in 7 different cities before he even turned 18. He never had a stable friend group, never had a room that felt truly his. But his Subaru WRX became the one constant thing in his life that he could actually control. Every modification was a deliberate decision he made. It was a mark he left, a piece of manufactured stability in a completely unstable, unpredictable life. This reveals a crucial psychological driver, the deep primal need for absolute control. Modern life is inherently chaotic. You cannot control the economy, you cannot control your boss, and you often cannot control the people around you. But a machine does not argue. A machine obeys the strict laws of physics. In a world where so much feels uncertain and entirely beyond individual influence, the owner decides everything: what color it should be, how loud it should sound, how it should perform. It becomes a small, personalized kingdom where the driver is the absolute authority. For example, consider the psychology of the sleeper car. This is a car that looks completely ordinary, but beneath the hood, it hides a massively powerful, highly tuned engine. The owner of a sleeper car plays a completely different psychological game than the rest. They do not want the loud, immediate validation of the crowd. They are driven by a sense of hidden superiority and silent dominance. It is the ultimate confidence, knowing you have the power to absolutely destroy the competition, but actively choosing to hide it until the perfect moment strikes. Some people modify cars as a strict form of compensation. Sometimes it is deeply rooted in insecurity. The psychology term for this is compensatory consumption. It is when people buy or modify things to make up for perceived inadequacies in other areas of their lives. A researcher at a British university conducted interviews with modified car owners. They felt invisible in their professional lives. The deafening exhaust, the aggressive wide body kit, and the dangerously lowered stance became tools. These modifications became ways of aggressively demanding the attention and respect that they felt they weren't receiving elsewhere. From a purely logical economic perspective, this makes zero sense. If they wanted speed, they could simply buy a faster, more reliable factory car. But humans are not spreadsheets. They are emotional beings who make decisions based on how things make them feel. Building a fast car, however, is the pursuit of mastery. Humans are biologically wired to seek competence and skill development. Many people who modify cars don't just buy parts and pay someone else to install them. They make expensive mistakes and gradually build true expertise. They enter what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls the flow state. Neuroscience research shows that when people complete a project they've invested literal blood, sweat, and time into, their brains release massive amounts of dopamine. It is pure neurological reward. It is the exact same chemical and emotional response a painter gets when stepping back to look at a finished canvas. And this specific type of mechanical art forms bonds that traditional society has forgotten. They spent 2 full years restoring and modifying a broken 1990s Toyota Supra together. While bleeding brakes or adjusting the suspension, they finally talked about life, relationships, fears, and hidden dreams. Finally, we must zoom out and look at the macro scale. The tribal instinct. Walk into any local car meet on a Saturday night. The evolutionary psychology becomes immediately apparent. These aren't just people showing off metal vehicles. Someone who spends $30,000 modifying a Nissan might seem completely irrational to outsiders. They speak a shared, exclusive language of horsepower, torque, suspension geometry, and highly specific aesthetic choices. They are a pack. Psychologist Abraham Maslow identified belonging as one of the most fundamental human needs, sitting right above physical safety. In an era where traditional social structures have fragmented and people interact primarily through sterile glass screens, car culture provides something dangerously real. It gets people out of their houses, into physical spaces, engaging face-to-face. It cures the modern disease of isolation through shared mechanical passion. There's also a non-violent rebellion embedded in this culture. They are louder than necessary, lower than practical, and more aggressive than socially acceptable. It is a way of looking at a mass-produced, copy-paste, identical world and confidently stating, "I refuse to accept your conventional expectations." Understanding the psychology of people who modify cars ultimately reveals a profound truth about all human behavior. We all want control over our chaotic lives, and we all desire mastery. The next time you see a heavily modified car and think it's excessive, remember there is a human behind those modifications with psychological needs being met. That car isn't just transportation, it's therapy, creativity, community, and identity, all wrapped into one steel package. We are Lupin Logic. Subscribe for more.